Spill the Honey. It's an incredible title for a wonderful organization for us to come together.
My name is Dr. Clarence B. Jones. I'm chairman of the board of the Spill the Honey Foundation. And of course, as everybody seems to know, when I was young and handsome, I was the political advisor, personal lawyer, and draft speechwriter for Martin Luther King Jr. It's important that they respond to the outreach of Spill the Honey, who is reaching out to them to say, learn something about the history of the movement that created our organization. Learn something about the alliance and cooperation that developed between the Black and Jewish community.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
My name is Dennis Archer Jr. This is a celebration of unity and of legacy. From the civil rights movement, Dr. Jones can attest, up until now, Black folk and Jews have been together, and we will continue to be together. And I am glad to see so many diverse faces here in this audience. I've had the pleasure of knowing Sherry for several years, and she has been talking about bringing people together over arts, over culture, over dinner, as a bridge to bring people of different cultures together.
If you really want to learn about the concept of Spill the Honey, look around the room. It's intergenerational here. So it takes a lot of work to stop and really think, am I seeing the other as essential to the self?
I have known the mayor, you all may know her as the Congresswoman.
Spill the Honey today is here to celebrate our legacies. I can't stand here tonight without telling you my heart is broken. The hate and the anti-Semitism and the lack of humanity, my heart is broken. But I also stand here today with Spill the Honey with a whole lot of hope. What you do today is sending a message to a generation that you'll never meet. Because if there was ever a time where the Black and Jewish communities need to stand up and to be intolerant of hate, we are on the clock. It's our turn to stand up.
This is what we fought for 63 years ago, to bring people together, Jews and Blacks, and what we were doing. And Spill the Honey is the essence of that. Tonight is a Kairos moment. Kairos means that it was divinely inspired by something greater than all of us. When we come together, we were stronger. Tonight, here in Detroit, this is a Kairos moment.
We will pray that God's blessing will be on us, and we will pray that we will be stronger together.
First, I would like to thank Ms. Shari Rogers to invite me to speak about a timely and critical subject regarding rebuilding bridges between African Americans and Jews. Jews and African Americans have a long history of interaction going back to biblical times. Indeed, it is no surprise when the African and African American Studies Department was founded for the first time in the history of Harvard. I, a Jewish person, was appointed to be the first professor.
You can turn your back now and you can keep the club in your hand, but you cannot sink down just.
This movie really helped me understand the path that it took to get here. I couldn't believe I didn't know about the Black and Jewish coalition and our alliance. I thought I was smart, and then I watched this and I realized I knew so little. And I think that cultures go to die when they forget about the past. Thanks again to Sherry for, being such a big part of my life and allowing me to play a part in Spill the Honey.
You know, this film is about the historical alliance between the Black and Jewish communities. And I remember being in Atlanta, and I didn't know anything about this. And then myself, along with 2,500 people, at the end of the film, we gave a 30-second standing ovation. How many friendships can we make with this knowledge?
This was a clear moment that showed that using music and education and arts, people can feel a very deep bond very quickly, and that can last for a long time.
When Dr. King started visiting Dr. Heschel on a regular basis, have to deal with two chain smokers of cigars.
I think love makes a difference. There are people who are ready to do good things.
And I feel so privileged to have so many people here that are going to remind us of our history. Fred Ferber, who you saw in the film briefly, lived through 5 concentration camps. He still had hope. He still chose life.
Our shared history is etched with the scars of suffering. The Jewish and Black communities have both faced unimaginable horrors. Yet in these trials, we have found a common language of hope and resilience. Let us also look forward with a shared commitment to create a world where our children, regardless of race or religion, can live without fear and together enjoy the very best that life has to fear.
Well, I, for one, hope I'm still rocking like that at 95.
This represents kind of the next step in the civil rights movement. Civic inclusion was the first stage. Widespread civic engagement is the next. I think this is really kind of an opportunity to, move past hatred, fight anti-Semitism, fight racism through music, through culture, through arts, and catalyze more messages and empower more voices to follow this model that we have from Blacks and Jews in the Civil Rights Alliance in that time, and bringing that into now, taking that as a model and applying it to today's world.
I want to acknowledge the artwork of the late Honorable Cunningham, a very well-respected artist who's been collected around the world, perhaps is most relevantly popular to Detroiters for a portrait he did of Berry Gordy.
What we're doing here all comes down to, we know that the antidote to hate is really education. We have repeatedly seen across the country the opening of the minds that take place at all our events. What's really key is we showed the film in hundreds of community centers and synagogues and churches, but we knew we had to reach the young kids. But once they came out and saw the film, they said, there's so much hate in the world. This shows that we don't have to be each other's enemies. Through love, through honey, through all of this, but it will be there for people to learn in a very unique way.
It's important because true history is oftentimes hidden from us, so actually taking the effort to learn the true history and what can grow from that, what can build from that, it can be ever-changing, everlasting.
We're going to bring to the stage Layla Steinberg, Robin Terry, Mickey Stevenson, and Ma Dukes.
Working in solidarity means we come together and we tell the truth. In order to grow, we have to be honest and we have to be willing to do the work.
We failed ourselves by not telling the story. Storytellers have died out. We need to continue this. We must spill the honey. We must tell the story. We must teach the generations past. But I will continue from this night, this moment, to spread that education of the past, of what we are, what we need to be in order to make a better world. And please remember that where you see the need, the responsibility becomes yours.
We're all one family. We got to work together, and the power of music brings that to reality.
It's one of my favorite Motown quotes, and it was by a man by the name of Junius Griffin. He said, "This is music that allows people who are very different," and he was specific, he said white and black people, to look at one another and say, there's a little bit of me and you, and there's a little bit of you and me. And so I just encourage all of us as we go about our business spilling the honey and making it stick, just to remember as we look at each other, there's a little bit of me and you, and there's a little bit of you and me.
We are now going to turn it up a little bit, and we're going to experience the Spill the Honey anthem.
We gotta form a honeycomb, pollinate, freedom in our lives, or it's time for a change. Fannie Lou Hamer said nobody's free until we all align.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Come on now. Come on now.
You guys are witnessing history here by having Dr. Jones, who flew all the way in from San Francisco here.
When I was a young lawyer looking to make a difference, Dr. Jones was the ultimate inspiration. He was an attorney, a writer, an activist. He did it all. During the Civil Rights Movement, when those who were threatened by Dr. King tried to tarnish his reputation, it was Dr. Jones who joined a team of distinguished attorneys to fight back.
I really know how Dr. King was able to accomplish a lot because he's still fighting.
This evening, we are gathered to renew our pledge to the alliance between blacks and Jews. As we gather to renew our pledge to stand together against the scourge of racism and anti-Semitism that made the Civil Rights Movement into the second reconstruction of our nation. We come from different faith communities, but let me assure you, we are unshakable in our commitment to do justice. We are powerful because we will never abandon the dream of my beloved brother, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to redeem the soul of America. So I am deeply honored to be with you this evening in Detroit, a city at the living heart of our history, to remember and celebrate the deep and powerful historical alliance of our black and Jewish communities. Home of my beloved friend Barry Gordy and Motown, the label and the sound and the soul that got the whole nation dancing in the streets. It's also the home of the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, which may have been referenced before. I actually accidentally met Sherry Rogers. That was some 12 years ago, maybe, for the first time. And I will never, never, ever forget the first time that Dr. King brought me here to Sunday services at Reverend C.L. Franklin's Newthell Baptist Church. Reverend Franklin brought his 19-year-old daughter to the pulpit. I was sitting in that church when Aretha sang, "Take My Hand, Precious Lord," one of Dr. King's most favorite songs. You could hear the voice of heavens come down to earth and lift you up out of the pew with tears streaming down my face. Several persons here this evening know that Detroit has a special place in the history of the Civil Rights Movement in America. Lord, I dared not walk in Detroit. I could hear Horace Sheffield. I could hear the shuffle in my ear. So I also particularly remember in June 1963, like it was June 23rd, 1963, Reverend Franklin walked arm in arm with Dr. King down Woodward Avenue over to the Jefferson Walk for Freedom, along with more than 125,000 people. The crowds marched from Woodward Avenue over to Jefferson, culminating in Cobo Hall, now Huntington Place, for a massive rally with Dr. King delivering one of the most iconic speeches of his career. And he shared his dream that night. 2 months later, at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., he was reminded by Mahalia Jackson of the dream he had shared in Detroit. The history of our nation was transformed thereafter. But
We're also called this evening to remember the tragic history as well, fused with the automotive industry that attracted so many black people to migrate here from the South. Henry Ford, who built up this city, perhaps the greatest business leader in this U.S. history, was a stone-cold, rabid anti-Semite. When Christian nationalists and neo-Nazis gathered for the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, North Carolina, I thought of that because if you remember what they said, Jews will not replace us. You could hear the echo of Henry Ford's despicable vision of white supremacy. The same ideology that has targeted and threatened Jews and blacks decade after decade. In my freshman year at Columbia University, I was 17 and a half years old, and I heard a voice standing behind me say, "Jonesy boy," I'm not going to say what he said, but "Jonesy boy, you are in trouble because you are being assigned classes with all of those kikes." So I said, "Well, what's a kike?" And he said, "A Jew boy, dummy. How the hell they let you in Columbia? You don't know what a kike is." My closest friends were so-called kikes, Jewish people. And as Sherry knows, that's where I learned to speak Yiddish. Every significant door that I was unable to open by myself, there was some Jewish person standing there and said, "Clarence, come on in, brother." That's my history. Take it from me, brothers and sisters. I love you from the bottom of my heart.
Dr. Jones, Spill the Honey is awarding you the Lifetime Achievement Award, presented to Dr. Clarence B. Jones in recognition for his unwavering commitment to civil rights, combating racism, anti-Semitism, and hatred, a celebration of unity and legacy.
This has been a very special evening for me. Thank you so much.
Time to spill the honey. Oh, spill the honey. Ooh. Spill the honey.